know, one of the products that we have is to gamify gold mining. And for those of you who aren't exactly sure what that means, I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about what our plan is and how and why we wanted to gamify gold mining. So obviously for us, we believe that keeping some of these assets in the ground has benefit, that there's a purpose to keeping some of the gold in the ground. But if you walk up to a gold miner and say, hey, I know you have this gold mine, you probably spent a lot of time and money on it, you should keep it in the ground, he's just going to give you two big middle fingers and tell you where to go. But if you can approach a gold miner and say, what if you kept your gold in the ground and were still able to monetize the in-ground asset? And so this is the conversation that we started having with gold mines a few years ago. We would literally reach out to gold mines, and a lot of these gold mines were looking for funding. Maybe they had a great asset, but they didn't have a way to pull the gold up out of the ground. And so we would start asking the question, what if there is a way for you to make money on the gold without ever pulling it out of the ground? Now, as a former gold miner, I know that the type of gold mining we did, for every $1,000 worth of gold you pulled out of the ground, it cost you like $600 or $700, and plus it was risky and dangerous and complicated and expensive and all those things that come along with it. So with the advent of the blockchain, it allows us to offer different solutions to people to monetize a gold mine without pulling gold out of the ground. Now, that's just one of the things that we do. Obviously, we're not trying to stop mining. We need it for all these fun things we like phones and computers and jewelry and all those great things. And so when we approach a mine and we say, what if I told you there were 2 or 3 other ways for you to monetize your mine without pulling the gold out of the ground, you get their attention. Now, one of those ways is to do a carbon credit project on the top of their land. Another way is to tokenize the in-ground asset and create a whole new token for the asset. Another way is to gamify gold mining. So what we would do, and again, just for those of you who are new, who haven't been around, we actually already built the game. It cost us about $700,000 and took 6 months, and it sucked. The group that was doing the game weren't monitoring the company that was hired to do it. And when we saw the final product, we would see little clips and stuff all throughout the process. And it was terrible. It wasn't representative of an actual mine. It wasn't actually doing anything. They had this whole futuristic, weird vibe to it. So what we're doing is, the purpose of gamifying gold mining is so that you can extract value digitally from a gold mine while at the same time locking that gold in the ground. And that value that's extracted through like a free play to earn game is the ELMT token. And so the gold miner would receive revenue from the game and just from Element United, the company, to keep the gold unmined so that we could create a digital version of his mine, get thousands and thousands of people playing the game. And as they pick the attributes of the real mine are going to match the attributes in the actual game. So in order to do that, you have to have a very detailed look of what is in the ground. And this will make sense why I'm saying all this in just one second. And so the real world asset, the RWA, has to match the digital asset, so that if a player goes in and buys a specific piece of ground, it has to match up. So in the game, if he buys a specific piece of ground, that has to correlate with an actual piece of ground in real life, because when the player goes down there and starts mining the digital asset, it locks in the physical asset. And so we get a whole community of tens of thousands of people who are playing a game, and they're extracting value in the form of ELMT, which is the digital reward, and at the same time locking everything in place in the real world. And so it's a fun way. And then there's all sorts of revenue generating things in there, like NFTs and buying new skins and upgrading and using the element token to upgrade your digger, your excavator, your dump truck, so that you can extract more ELMT. And it's a free game, but the upgrades, the way you monetize it is by having all these upgrades in the game. So you can create revenue for the gold mine. And now you've got tens of thousands of people playing the game, and they're learning the vision, mission, purpose of Element United. And they're hearing about the problems that exist in the real world and how they can solve those problems by playing a digital game. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. It's a great way to get, the gaming community tends to be the crypto community. The gaming community and the crypto community tend to be younger. They're more concerned about the issues that are happening in the world, like child labor, environmental destruction, and all those fun things. Now, like I mentioned before, in order to create a game, you have to have a mine. And ideally, you better own that mine because you have to be able to ensure that that gold doesn't ever get mined, because we just built a game having a concept of your actions are locking gold in the ground forever. The only way to do that is to control a piece of ground and have ownership in that. So now let's fast forward. So we built the game. It was done, I don't know, almost 2 years ago. Terrible. And then we decided as a company there were bigger priorities. That's where we made our pivot into tokenization of carbon credits and to build out our other projects before we circled back to the game. One of the most critical steps in the game was getting a piece of ground. So we secured a piece of ground in Africa owned by one of our partners, and he dedicated 10,000 hectares of that land to us to do two things: to create carbon credit projects on the soil and to gamify everything underneath the soil. That piece of ground is phenomenal. It's right up near, some very incredible land. David and Chris went out there and visited. They've walked the land. We've seen it. But the last step is you have to get a verification of what's in the ground, because you can't create a digital version if you don't know what's in the ground in real life. So that's typically done through a process called a 43-101. That tells you what's in the ground, where it's at, how much is there, and then it allows us to go. And that process takes a while. So step number one, we secured ownership via a contract of a big chunk of that mine. Step number two is to get those assets verified. And that's what's been happening. The mine owner went out, raised funds, and that mine is currently being assayed right now at a cost of $5 million. And so it's a lot of big trucks, a lot of employees, a whole bunch goes into the verification of the mine. Now, we have ownership, it's being verified. The results of the tests are coming back phenomenal, like incredible, phenomenal. Now that created a problem for us. Problem that created is that now the owner of the mine is getting offers for the mine, to buy the mine. That's a problem for us because now we don't have land to go ahead and build a game. And it's great for us because we have ownership in that mine. The offers he's getting are huge, not in the, I won't reveal too much, but it's a lot of zeros behind it. Very, very big. And the ownership that Element has is huge. It would make 8 figures for Element, just our small piece of ownership. That's how much cash would come to us when this property sells. So in conversations I've had with the owner of the mine, he said, hey, look, I know we have this contract, and in your contract, it specifically says this portion that you guys own and control will never be mined. And he said, however, the potential new buyer of the mine won't go for that. They're there to mine. And I said, well, okay, well, who's the potential owner? Because obviously you guys know what our vision, mission, and purpose is. It is to clean up mining, to make sure that there's no environmental destruction, that people are being paid fair wages and all that. Well, the buyer is a multi-billion-dollar public company. Now, the reason why that's a good thing is because A, they have the cash to buy, but B, the big companies that are doing most of the mining in the world aren't dumb enough to do something like hire children or go dump all their waste in a back alley somewhere, because they're a big publicly traded company and they need to do things correctly. They need to make sure that they are legal, that their licenses are up to date, that they're, multinational companies have standards outside of the countries that they're mining in. You can sneak in like I would do in Ghana and just kind of get away with whatever because you're dealing locally. Multinational publicly traded companies worth tens and tens of billions of dollars can't do that, which is good from the Element perspective, because we say, well, that's great. At least we know if this new buyer comes in, they're going to be ethical. They're going to be doing things that are correct, because there's too much at stake for them. Because remember, people always act according to their needs. That's why all the damage is being done. The locals, they contribute to all the bad mining because they're just trying to put food on the table. Big multinational companies have board of directors that they have to answer to, shareholders, and they make billions of dollars a year. So having said that, I was approached recently by the owner of the mine that said, the buyer is good. He's one of the good guys. They are a multinational billion-dollar company, and they want this land badly. So we have to redo our deal and move this ownership that you had in this mine over to one of our other mines. And he said, the win for you is that you're going to make 8 figures. Your company will make 8 figures when this sells, and we'll transfer your ownership to these new mines that we have over here because they're continuing to mine. So that is the good news, bad news for us. The good news, there's a lot of money that potentially, when this deal closes, and it won't close till next year, there's a lot of money that's coming into the company to do a whole bunch of fun things with. The bad news is, now, had we started building the game and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and taken months, we'd be in a very, very tricky spot right now, because we would have been matching the in-ground assets to the digital version that we were building. So that's the one silver lining that we put the game on pause, is that our mining partner he's going to sell. And since we're the minority partner, it's either sell with him, and he's not positioned like that. He's a really good guy, and he's coming to us going, hey, we have a small issue. Would you guys be willing to move your ownership over to a new mine? And the reason is, we're going to sell it and you're going to make a whole bunch of money, but we're selling it to one of the good guys that's not going to go out there and do the stuff you guys are trying to stop. So that's where the game's at. We've been waiting for the reports to come back so that we can build, but now we're going to have to shift. And we're okay with that, because there's been so many other great things that we've been working on, and so many other cool things that are in development right now, that we have only so much bandwidth. Now, when this deal closes and all these funds come in, then we have bandwidth in the world. We don't really want to wait till next year when the money comes in. We'd like to get started sooner. So when we figure out the new piece of land we're going to have to mimic the game off of, then we'll start building that again. And hopefully we'll be on a piece that can't be sold. There's a whole host of mines that we can choose from. We'll make sure it's one that can't be sold and that will have a little bit more impact. So that's where we're at on the game. So I think there were 2 or 3 different questions that came up about when's the game going to happen. And so that's the backstory. We usually don't go into the full backstory. I wanted to make sure, because this is an open Q&A and we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of stuff, I wanted to make sure you guys knew exactly where we were on the game. It's worked out better for us that we hadn't started it, because we'd be in a really tough spot. We'd have to eat all the money and time that we put into a new game on a piece of land that's being sold. And again, if there's not a direct correlation between the game and the real world asset, then it's worthless. It's just made up. I can go make up that game tomorrow. But we want the users of the game to know that as they play, that's triggering a real world action on a real site that's locking gold in the ground forever. So that's where we're at on there. Okay, so that answers about 3 questions that I got. And so I'm going to go ahead and try to get up to the top of the list. One of the other questions that there's consistently kind of the same questions I get either personally, or I get through messages, or we get in Discord. And so some of those questions have been asked here. So it's great. I'm glad we're addressing some of these. And so the first 2 questions, they're both long. They're both about a paragraph long, but essentially they talk about the same thing. So one of them starts off with, some of us believers and investors in Element's mission and projects, we already spoke to our inner circle of the people, and we're not influencers. We just believe in Scott and the team and in Element. And so thank you for that support. And saying, look, Bitcoin's starting to take off. There's a whole bunch of stuff happening. To let the world know what we're doing, and it goes on to say, I'm not referring to community members and liquidity pools. I'm referring to Element's awareness and exposure in the real world asset space. Nobody really knows about Element. Posts that we're posting are basically just going to the same community. How do we basically get out there to the world? The follow-up question to that is, again, exposure and creating excitement about the real world projects, and mentioning OzMint. How do we let the world know that we have this new thing with OzMint? We got to let everybody know. And you are 100% correct. Those are the things that we are working on as well. When you do a project like OzMint, we have to get outside of the Element community to let the world know, if you want to buy gold at a discount, there's a way to do it using the Element token. Everybody that comes on this call, everybody that sees this, most of you guys run nodes and you already have Element. That's great. You can take that Element and you can go buy gold and silver from Oz. But really, the impact happens when the world has to go into the market to buy ELMT to then take it to Osmint and buy the gold and get a discount from us in additional ELMT. So your question is 100% correct. We don't plan on just having the element community go in and buy gold. If this is going to have a real world impact and create the utility that we know this can have, it must go to the masses. In order to go to the masses, we have to be ready. Osmint has to be ready for a massive influx. There has to be a few other things. There has to be some liquidity in the market so that Osmint can go out there and sell all the element he's going to be receiving. He's going to be receiving tens, if not hundreds of millions of element for his gold and silver. And so an announcement like that, we want to make sure that number one, we are ready and Oz is ready. One of the other things that I talk about a lot too is to make sure that there's a timing aspect to everything that we do. Now, in the crypto world, it is largely believed, and I'm one of the believers, there's a massive run coming, and you guys have already seen it is starting right now. You saw what Bitcoin did last week. Bitcoin right now is sitting at 119,000. So you guys know we also have a couple guys who are they're members of the community. They're putting big chunks into marketing, market making support, and they are trying to time it because as they put money into the market, once it's spent and the message goes out, if the crypto world, if these altcoins like ours haven't taken off, they're like, ooh, I don't want to blow all this marketing money if there's a wave coming and I do all my marketing here, but the wave hits here. Now, we've told them it's time. The time is right now. And so, as you guys know, I've mentioned this before. One of our guys, he's been on one of these calls, has committed 7 figures into doing a big marketing push and to do market support. So it's going to happen very soon. He's of the opinion, because he's been advised by so many people in the crypto world, to hit it at the right time. We all believe, and again, this isn't, I don't have a crystal ball, but we all believe there is a run of 6 to 8 months that's coming that's going to be incredible. That's going to be fantastic, and it's going to benefit the entire crypto world. And so there's this, how long do you keep your powder dry? And it's now that doesn't mean that we can't do marketing right now. Things that aren't that expensive, like getting on podcasts. We have a group out of Idaho that's going to have me start to get out there and get on podcasts and start talking. But the big push, I don't know, I'll lift up curtain a little bit more. There's a group out east, and they said, listen, we will get your company on the map. But it's a marketing package. It's $1 million, and it's going to take them several months to get it up there. They're saying, when we do this, here's what's going to happen to your token, blah, blah. We don't do that, right? We've always talked about the compliance side of it. Element United does not control the token price of ELMT. We don't make earnings claims, anything like that. Now, the people that go out and do the marketing, they do. And so basically the short answer is it is coming, and there's a timing aspect to that. I know some people don't like that, but it's not me writing the text to do all this stuff. It's a couple members of the community that are doing that, and they are heavily incentivized to do this because they're some of the largest ELMT owners out there. And so it's their money, they're going to do it. Great. Now, what can we do, Element United, as a company to do marketing? We can do a lot more, and we're working on it. We've been filming a lot of little videos that are going to start going out. But to your point, excellent point, and this is something that we think about daily. We have to have our coming out party to the world. And we know that to have the reach and the impact that we need to have on a global scale, that must happen. And we look at it from the standpoint of the world needs to know the problems that are happening out there right now. The world needs to know that there are children enslaved, that there's chemicals being just dumped into rivers, that the environment's being destroyed. The world needs to do that. We look at it from that perspective. Because right now, nobody knows that still. So for us, we lead with that vision, mission, purpose. We lead with that message. And then people go, okay, how do I get involved? And we say, great, new technologies emerged where you can be rewarded for being a part of the solution. So that's going to be going out. That message is time now for us to take that message to the world. So that is coming. As far as when that's coming, I'll say it's imminent. It is about to happen. All these things are coming. I met with the group putting the money in yesterday, and it's coming very soon. So that's coming. Okay. Next question. I'm sorry. My first two answers went on for freaking ever. I was telling the team, hey, this is going to be a nice short call, and it's not. So I'm going to speed up to make sure we get to more of these. I need to make sure you guys are still here. Hold on. Let me get out of my, oh, good. You're still here. All right. So let me go back to some of the questions. Okay. Is there an ambassador program? Yes. So we are working with people who are pushing the Element story out there. Now, some of you guys are with Connect. Connect has their own program. If you're not with Connect and you want to figure out how you can get involved with and getting rewarded or paid to share the Element message, just hit us up. Ali, what's the best place for them to go? Is that just submit a just customer service, or I don't know. I don't know what the best way is. If you want to jump in, any people had.
So you can submit an email to support@ElementUnited.com at any time, and we can give you more information there, connect you with Connect if that's a great fit for you, and we can talk about options and what's available. But we'd love to have as many ambassadors as possible. That's great.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. We just worked out a deal yesterday with a guy he said, I need you to pick a time every week that you're going to be doing an Element presentation, and I'm going to go fill that Zoom or R-Link time. So he's out there he just said, I just have to have a consistent time from you, which we're doing. And so we're going to do, I think, Thursday afternoons, and he's just going to put people in, and anyone that buys a node or some of our NFTs that we'll announce here soon, he gets paid for it. So, we'll do the work. You guys just go out and spread the message. Okay. One of the questions is, when speaking to heads of mining, what information is best to give them to explain the benefits of a mining company being on the Element blockchain? That's a great question, because I know a lot of you guys have connections with mines. And so basically the way to approach that, I guess it depends. There's all types of mines, large mines that are essentially, doing the best that they can because there's so much money at stake. There's that kind of middle tier that we're kind of focused on, which is we are trying to increase the exposure of them as being one of the good guys. So there's a force out there. This is what I tell people. There's a movement happening in the world right now where people are asking the questions, what is the origin of my gold, silver, cobalt, lithium? I don't want to buy products that aren't ethical. And so there's a movement, and it's coming. And so you have to tell them, you want to be on the good guy list. Being on the good guy list means you're certified with Element, and they have products that allow you and allow your customers to see that you are taking steps to be one of the good guys. That's one of the best ways. The other way is how I started this call earlier today, which is, what if there were ways to monetize gold that you have in the ground that maybe you won't be, because some of these mines, there are parts of their mine that they'll never mine. They don't have some of these mines are 100,000 hectares or 100,000 acres. They're never going to get to it. So the question is, if I could tell you could monetize the gold that's in the ground and never have to have the expense of going in there and trying to pull it up, would you be interested in monetizing a part of your unused mine? That's another great way to get their attention, and it gets their attention every time. And then you send them to us, and we talk about creating a carbon credit project that's on the blockchain, or gamification of in-ground assets, or tokenization of in-ground assets, which is what we can do as well. So that's now someone says, is there someone in Element willing to have a conversation with mining companies in Australia? Yes, that'd be me. Anytime you have somebody, you just let me know. I have done quite a few meetings with mining companies that were referred by members of the community. Sometimes we can do something with them, sometimes we don't, but we will take all of those calls. Okay, next question.
That's not always the best at answering Discord or whatever, so you might need to submit a support ticket.
Oh, okay, I'll get into
that's how.
Okay.
And that's how.
We
gotta get Scott to look at stuff.
Yeah. My bandwidth is, but I'll get in Discord more, or I'll have someone monitor and say, hey, someone's trying to get a hold of you. They have a mining company. So yeah, I'm sure there's been people in Discord that have said, hey, Scott, and I haven't seen it. So that's on me. I'll do a better job of that. How does this news with JP Morgan affect our own blockchain, which has its own Element token? So if you guys don't know, the JP Morgan is doing tokenized carbon credits, and they're creating their own blockchain. Now, why is this a good thing? Well, because we've been in the tokenization of the carbon credit space for a while. When we talk to some of these groups, they don't really see the value of tokenization of carbon credits. JP Morgan is about to put it on the map. And because they are JP Morgan and not Element United that nobody's heard of, people are going to go, oh, well, if these guys are building out their own blockchain and they are creating this whole new ecosystem where carbon credits are tokenized, that's a good thing. And then so there's this thing of adoption, right? Some people are the early adopters. Some people have to wait until other people start adopting it before they get in. The fact that JP Morgan is doing this is great. It's the same thing with the Bitcoin ETFs. Once the big boys started getting into the Bitcoin ETFs, then everybody went, maybe Bitcoin's legit. Maybe it's not this scammy crypto thing. And then the world got into it. That was a huge catalyst. And the people who own Bitcoin are very happy about that. Same thing is going to happen here with JP Morgan doing what they're doing, creating their own blockchain and really legitimizing the need for tokenized carbon credits. It's going to help everybody that's in the space. And the space is getting crowded. And we obviously are in that same space. And so we're going to be looking to grab as much market share as we can. And if anybody has any doubts to it, we can refer them to say, hey, look, if JP Morgan's getting into this, get your butt in gear. There will not be carbon credits that won't be on the blockchain, in the next few years. So anyway, all right. What are the utility of the NFTs? Okay, that was a gaming question. What is in the development studio? Okay, that also a gaming question. Okay, what is the plan? Okay, so there's some questions on liquidity, and I know the community gets frustrated when I try not to address the questions of liquidity because and the reason why I do that, just to give you a quick recap, there's something called the Howey test, which the SEC uses to see if you are a security, and one of those tests would be, are you relying, are your people who've bought nodes, are they relying on me to make the token go up or to get an investment? And the answer always has to be no. It's always done by the community. The community members create the liquidity pools. The community members talk about the token. They push it, because if it's me, then the SEC goes, hey, you're a security. We're going to shut you guys down. So we have a very large compliance team who said, be on the safe side and not talk about what the company is doing, because the company can't do these things. So it has to be done by the community. So the community, there are community members out there, and we did bring on Scott Touchton about a month ago. We'll bring him back on. He kind of represents a lot of the community members to talk about the efforts that are being done on these liquidity pools, because obviously we have to have the liquidity. If I were sitting in your chair, I would say, Scott, where's the volume and where's the price increase of the token? I have nodes and tokens too. I want the same things, but Element United, the company, doesn't do those things. It's done by members of the community. All I'll tell you now, and maybe we'll bring on Scott next week or in 2 weeks to answer some of these questions in more detail, is that there's been a lot done right now in preparation to get these liquidity pools and things set up because again, the same reason for these marketing efforts. There's a run coming. I'm confident of it. There's a boom coming. This is just opinion by Scott, that there's a big crypto run coming, and there's a lot of things to prepare for, including getting liquidity pools and stuff like that. And that's being done by the community, not the company. One of the other questions, why did Element change its product names? Perfect transition into what we're talking about, and going and releasing kind of our greater vision to the world. We're doing a little bit of rebranding. You guys saw we have the new website, ElementUnited.earth. That's our new website. We're just trying to get prepared and be ready for the masses to see who we are. And some of the old stuff was just outdated. eVault, it just felt dated. There's, like if you look at older companies, like whatever, it's just kind of old. And so we're just trying to do a little bit of a rebranding. So Alchemy is the new name of eVault. It just better captures the scope of how Element functions and just aligns with the partners and companies that we're aiming to attract. So Alchemy, we always loved that name. Amy did a great job of rebranding that. Also the EMC, was just a certification. We're a little broader than that. We're trying to do more than just certify. And so Straya is the new name of that. Straya is actually an acronym. Let me see if I can remember the acronym. Amy, do you remember the acronym for Straya, since this is your, I'm looking for it. Straya, Standards for Traceable Resource Integrity and Advancement. How do you like that? Amy for the win. She just put it in my notes here as we were talking. So yeah, we're trying to expand. You know, we start off with, okay, how can we create, you know, products that are on the blockchain? And as we're growing as a company, so is our reach, and so is our kind of our vision. And so we needed branding that reflected that. EMC eVault is very, you know, singular. This is what it is. This is what we do. We're trying to expand on that. So Straya, I love that name. It's a great name. And so, yeah, you'll see the rebranding on the new website. I think it was on the old website as well, but you'll see that. And it's just a way for us to position ourselves as we let the masses know who we are. What are the new products? I'm going to have Amy, if you want to jump in here and talk a little bit about Core. That's one of the new products. We'll turn a few minutes over to Amy. You want to jump in here? Hold on. Let's see if she's okay. I think we're out of time, but okay. So we'll post. I'm getting messages here saying, "Oops, we're out of time," because I try not to go over 30 minutes. I got a big mouth. Ali said earlier, I'm really good at just, you know, going off, and she's right, because I'm out of time. But anyway, so yeah, we'll put a doc together. Maybe we'll save that one for next week when we talk about Core. It's exciting new product in the commodities world. But yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff happening right now. If you guys have more questions, just go ahead and put it in Discord, and we'll make sure we try to get that. So lots of fun stuff happening. I think we're at 30 minutes. And so, Paul, we're just going to go ahead and end this one, right? If there's anything else you want to add?
I mean, I was just going to show from our pinball swap event, just our leaderboard real fast.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay.
Okay. I think you can all see it. So great event. We had a great turnout. We had a ton of people doing swaps. Thank you everyone who participated in the swap event. As you guys can see, you can go onto that website still, but Razika kind of just totally blew it out of the water at 5 million tokens. I did a fantastic job. Everyone else was under 1 million, but still Robert, you know, was still up in the 500,000, and Fluster Mama also in the 200,000. So thank you, everyone. Yeah, it was a great event, and we're thankful for everyone who participated. So maybe if everyone enjoyed it, maybe we'll do another event like this or campaign like this again. So.
Hey, Paul, I did want to add really quick that we actually had a few people give Rosika #1 a run for her money. They chose not to be listed on the leaderboard here, but we had several people fighting for that #1 spot. So that's awesome.
That is awesome.
I like the name Elements. That's cool. Should have stole that from you. That's a great name.
It is a great one.
Wow. That could be one of our product names. Love it.
Elements.
All right. Well, thank you guys. There's nothing else. Then great. If you have any other questions, go ahead and put them in Discord. We'll try to get there. And I know we kind of mixed up the time a little bit. Not many attendees, but that's okay. We record these as always, and we'll post them on our YouTube channel.
I have one last thing too, Scott. I did put a button to visit the new Element website below, but also I just got confirmation that the redirect is set up. So now anything that is connected to ElementUnited.com will automatically redirect to the new domain. So
awesome. Fantastic. Okay.
Okay.
Love it.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you guys for joining. All right.
All right. Bye.